If you look at it, the national does not have power based on our NG constitution to actually remove names, to actually replace.
So invariably, you are talking about what you are trying to say is that the list, the delegate list, actually impacted on the numbers of those that actually partake in the election.
Definitely, because those names that were removed were, members that have paid.
Okay.
They satisfy all criteria for being a delegate of the election, but their names were removed. They were there at that day to actually vote, but they couldn't because they always use the names that is approved. But because, okay, let me explain. The NJ Constitution actually gave the national body the power to determine who will be a delegate or not. But that power does not give them the right to actually supplant names that are not hitherto submitted by the chapel. They can reduce the numbers, but they can't add to the number.
Is the discourse, and this is the Informant 247. The discourse is the program where we take a deep dive into the issues that concern you and I, be it politics, entertainment, sport, lifestyle, or what have you. Today, we'll be looking at the fourth estate of the realm in the society. We're talking about no any other thing, the journalist in our midst. Now, the fundamental role of the journalist is actually to hold the society together, account for stability, and hold those in government accountable for whatever it is they are doing. Over the week, the NUJ Kwara State Chapter held their election to appoint or to elected a new set of ESCOs to actually champion the cause of the affairs of the State Union of Journalists over the cost period of the next season. However, prior to the election, during the election, and after the election, so to say, there was a lot of fallout from the member of the organization. And today with me in the studio to actually discuss that is one of the candidates in the just concluded NUJ election in Kwara State, no any other person than Mr. Abdullahi Dari Akogun, who happens to be the head of digital media, Sobi FM. You are welcome to the discourse.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you in our midst today. Let's start like this. The NUJ election, what is your take about it? The just concluded election.
Oh, wow. If you ask me for my take, I think that will be the first time we'll be witnessing that type of election in any union, even in the states across the federation, because it was fought with so many anomalies that has never been actually witnessed before.
Really?
In any kind of election, in quotes. As you all know, election, there are always rules and guidelines guiding such election. All the rules and guidelines as established in the NUJ Constitution to guide elections periodically whenever it comes up. Most of those rules were actually violated and was not adhered to the just concluded election.
Okay, this is the second time you are contesting. What's the difference between the last election, or what will you say constituted to why you lost the last election and this just concluded one? Was it because of the organization, or are there anything in particular that actually affected the conduct of the election that you are not on with?
All right, so thank you very much. Comparing the last election and where I contested and I also came second, and this election that I contested only with the incumbents, there is a huge difference. But that last election, and when I contested as someone that is coming with a change, because I've been in Lagos for most of my life. I came back to Ilorin in 2017 due to Sobi FM. That is a new station then. It was established in 2017, and some of us were actually invited from outside of the states. Fine, we are from Kwara State to be part of it, because there is a dream shared by the owner, and he believes that there are some of us that can actually drive that dream. So the last election that was held 3 years ago was actually seamless, because from the constitution of the Ecclesial Committee, because the NG Constitution actually give room that the constitutional requirement for constitution of the electoral committee should be done 3 months to the expiration of the tenure of the current ESCO. So the date of the election is always set to be the date, the last day in office of the ESCOs. So the last election, all those processes were followed. The Credential Committee were duly nominated at the Congress as as it's given by the Constitution.
Okay.
Also, the election timetable was released as at when due. There's room for claims and objection. There's room for campaigns and all those due process.
Talking about claims and objection, one of the candidates or one of the aspirants in the just concluded election took the electoral body to industrial court to seek redress as to why he was disenfranchised. I believe that was what the electoral body was set up for in the first instance.
Yeah, okay, so as I was saying, so that was done 3 years ago, but this time around, that provision was not followed. The Credential Committee was inaugurated around, I think, towards the end of May for this just concluded election. And we calculate from the end of May to July 10, when the tenure of the ESCO should have elapsed. So it's not up to 3 months. But be that as it may, when they did that, and the names, that's the chairman and secretary of that Credential Committee, it's always decided one, maybe at the Congress, there will be nomination. Okay, out of these 5 people that are nominated to be part of the Electoral Committee, we know to nominate so person to be the chairman and the secretary. It was not done. Then, if it was not done at the Congress, the SWC, that is State Working Committee, ESCOs, there are 7. They also have that power to deliberate among themselves and agree on who will be the chairman and the secretary of that committee. So when they were actually in that process of doing that, the chairman wrote to the national telling them that this will be the chairman and this will be the secretary of that committee. And while we got to know that it was the chairman that wrote, it was when the national body now wrote back that they have approved your request of nominating these people and picking the chairman. It also generates a lot of controversy, discussion, controversy, where the council secretary actually came out to say that we've not agreed on this issue. That we are receiving a letter from the national.
Still talking about the issue of the letter, there is a case in court that the court is yet to determine, but the electoral body still went ahead and conducted the election, despite the fact that there is still a case in court pending the court decision. Does that actually have any impact on the credibility of the election?
Well, we all know when it means that if a case in court, definitely it's always advisable to actually wait till the determination of that court, maybe suit or whatever, before you continue or you go ahead with whatever you think you are doing. And let me just quickly, for clarification's sake, the case that was actually instituted at the industrial court was one of the candidates that was disqualified as vice chairmanship candidate, Fadeyi Babajide. He approached the court after writing petitions to the national secretariat stating his claims that he was disqualified from participating in the election. Not only him, his entire chapel were also disqualified from participating in the election. And what was the issue that made the guy to go to court? And he just said that whether the national secretariat actually have the power to determine who will be delegates of each branches or not, because the NJ Constitution stated that if there is any need to raise delegates either for triennial election at the state level or at the national level, the people that will submit the names of those delegates are the chairman and secretary of each chapel that will submit the names of their members to the state council before onward sending it to the national. Or if it is, in this case, the Credential Committee, because it's an election. So when they sent those names, when they returned back the name from the national, there are some names that have been substituted. 1, there are some, like further information, their name did not even come out. 2, then thirdly, the corresponding chapels, they submitted 36 names, and what was returned was 23. So in all of these, one from the information chapel that names were substituted with others, the name they submitted was removed, while others were added. In such situation, if there is any issue pertaining delegates, it is the duty of the Credential Committee to write back or inform the chapel chairman that submitted the names to them. Okay, we're having issues on these names and we need clarification on those names.
Okay.
Now, well, after doing that, the chairman will let them know what the issues might be. And they don't have the power to add. Fine, they have the power to remove. They can say, okay, we can't have this person
or this
based on so thing.
Okay.
But they can do that, but they cannot add names
to it.
Fine, they might even be from that chapel. Before they do that, they must notify the chairman, okay, these people have approached us that their name is not on the original list you sent to them and they want to be part of it. Come and one, certify that they are your members. Two, that they are up to date with their financial commitment. And three, they have the required requisite qualification. This was not done.
All right, talking about all these criteria, was that part of the reasons some delegates list was distorted before the election? Because I could recall in some quarters it's been reported that the delegate list was tampered prior to the election.
Yes, that's what I'm actually trying to explain. You know, I submitted 10 names, which I know that, for example, I'm using myself as an example. Okay, from Sobe FM, we submitted 12 names. From those 12 names to the credential committee, they will screen those names. Because after submitting their names, you submit their qualification. They must have either HND or BSc in mass communication. Secondly, you submit their evidence of payments. Okay, they've paid for
membership.
All their dues, yearly dues is complete. So you submit that to the credential committee, which they will screen. If they don't have any issue, they will pass those screened names that have the evidence of payment and their qualification to the National Secretariat. Okay, these are the names, these are their documents, we have screened them, they are certified, okay. Now, when we did that, the credential committee pasted the names, because after the screening, they will paste that, okay, after the screening, we are able to certify that these people are capable to proceed, while these people will not be part of it. Okay. Now, when they do that, that is when there will be room for claims and objection. The claims and objection, okay, these names you've submitted, we gave you 50 names, you are saying that you have screened just 14. The other names that were removed, what happened to them? So the council chapel will write to the credential committee, okay, these names, these are the issues. They will tell them, okay, we cannot ascertain their qualification, we cannot ascertain their evidence of payment. So they will provide it to them. After that, then they will send it to the national. So, for example, for information chapel, they submitted 50 names.
Okay.
When the credential committee screened them, they reduced this to 44. That 6 names were not qualified to be delegates. Now, that 44 that was pasted, that will be the 44 that will be sent to the national. But when the national now returned the names of the information chapel, from 44, it jumped to 48. Now, the chairman is not aware. Let me just finish this. The chairman is not aware. Then, out of those 44 that was initially pasted, 5 or 6 names were removed. And another set of names were included in the list that was sent. So, if you look at it, the national does not have power, based on our NG constitution, to actually remove names, to actually replace.
So invariably, you are talking about, what you are trying to say is that the list, the delegate list, actually impacted on the numbers of those that actually partake in the election.
Definitely, because those names that were removed were, members that have paid.
Okay.
They satisfy all criteria for being a delegate of the election, but their names were removed. They were there that day to actually vote, but they couldn't because they always use the names that is approved. But because, okay, let me explain. The NJ Constitution actually gave the national body the power to determine who will be a delegate or not. But that power does not give them the right to actually supplant names that are not hitherto submitted by the chapel. They can reduce the numbers, but they can't add to the number. And even if they will add, it will be to the knowledge of actually the chairman of that chapel. Okay, from your chapel, these individuals have approached us and they show that they are members of the chapel, but their name were not included. So because of their approaching us and fulfill all of it, we will be adding their names to it. So the chairman will definitely be aware, and those things will actually be done like a week or two before the election, so that in case the chairman or anyone is wrong, so they'll be able to write that, okay, Mr. President or Mr. Electoral Committee, these things you've done are wrong. These are the right things. And because the national does not know, and the people advise, it's only their chairman that will actually identify that so person is even one other thing in the form that was obtained by candidates. There's a section that stated that the candidate must be endorsed by the chairman or secretary of his chapel to confirm that this candidate is actually from your chapel. So it is just the NUJ constitution, and it's very, very clear.
All right.
The Presidential Committee does not have power to put names.
Let me cut you short there. There is a report immediately after the election that elect Mr. Abdulateef Lanre Ahmed as the chairman of the NUJ in Kwara State, and the Kwara State government actually congratulates them. And just about a few minutes later, there was a report that you are approaching the court for a redress. On what grounds?
Yeah, basically just what I've explained. The national executive of the power of the constitution of the union have taken over the power of the Presidential Committee. It's stated in our constitution, clean, simple, like the petition I wrote to the national talking about the second redress. I've actually submitted the petition to them today, and one of those things is improper constitution of the Presidential Committee. Like I said, the council chairman Ahmed Abdulateef Lanre was the one that unilaterally picked the chairman and secretary of the Presidential Committee, which is against the NUJ constitution. After nominating them at the Congress, they will be nominated as the chairman and secretary at the floor of the Congress. If it's not done, then the SWC, which comprises the chairman, vice, the secretary, treasurer, auditor, financial secretary, and the assistant secretary, some of them will meet and deliberate on who will be the chairman and secretary. After that, then the secretary will write to the national.
So none of these procedures.
No, it was not followed. It will be the secretary that will forward those names to the national. That we've agreed on this particular person to be the chairman. That was not followed. Secondly, the questionable activities of the Presidential Committee. From the onset, the activities and conduct of the Presidential raised significant doubt about their credibility. Why did I say that? When they were eventually inaugurated around June, they brought out a timetable that just gave them 2 weeks to sell form, screen candidates, screen delegates, and conduct the election. It is against because the Constitution said the list of delegates and people that want to contest the election should get to the National Secretariat 6 weeks before the day of the election. This was not also done. Also, another thing is a printing of voters' names on ballot papers. Now, the ballot paper we use, every delegate that was cleared has his or her name on the ballot paper. Your name and the chapel you represent. Okay. So invariably,
what was the method that was adopted by the electoral committee? Was it a secret ballot or an open ballot?
Our constitution said every election should be a secret ballot.
So the moment the name and the chapel that the person comes from is on the ballot paper, I can easily know the person voted.
So that secrecy that is granted the voter has actually been removed. So all the voters that voted, anyone can actually know who voted for who and who did not vote for anyone. So let me just conclude this. Let me have this.
Time is no longer on our side.
Okay, now then the major one is the differential assessment of members, majorly people that are my supporters. I said they removed their names and they wrote petitions that our names were removed. Those petitions were not attended to until the day. Actually, the list was released 2 days to the election, which is also another violation of the constitution, because it should have been at least a week or two, so that people will be able to complain, vent their anger, write their petition to actually ask why were they disenfranchised, and all those things were actually not done before the election. The reason why one of the people that was prevented from participating approached the court that they've not attended to my petitions and they want to go ahead with the election. Can you give them a restraining order or someone for them to appear before this court and explain why they were removed from the delegate list before they will conduct the election? And it was not done. And the court paper was actually served to them before the commencement of the election on the 31st.
Well, all right. Thank you very much. This is where we'll be drawing the curtain on today's episode of the program. At the NUJ election, court injunction, court summon before the election proper. After the election, there is another appeal, and the conduct of the election is actually being challenged by one of the candidates. And prior to the election, one of the aspirants actually take the electoral committee to court. It's still an event that is unfolding. We will put our hands crossed to actually see what will be the outcome of the appeal, what the court case that is pending, what the outcome is going to give birth to at the end of the day. But you know, this is the informant. It's not over until it is finally over. So we'll be sitting on the fence, monitoring the situation as it goes. And you can always trust us. We always bring people that will actually give meaning to the situation happening around us to you. The program is a discourse. This is Informat 247, and I remain Kesola Ismail. Till we meet again, be safe.
Akika Informat. Everybody first celebrate here. I want kan tó ṣe máa implicate here. No more competition against here. Informat.
It's been my knowledge.